And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska aviation weather outlook for Sunday into Monday of early next week. We have a few things we're going to be watching, a bit of a change in the pattern. First of all, low pressure will be lifting out of the North Pacific across the Aleutians Sunday into Monday. Meanwhile, a ridge of high pressure is going to develop and build northward from the North Pacific into the Gulf early next week. This is going to allow for drier conditions and milder temperatures to set up, especially over areas of the Panhandle, and eventually pushing up into south central up ahead of the next weather system by midweek. But we still find areas of IFR along southwest coast, Nunavik Island in toward St. Matthew and St. Lawrence Island Sunday morning. We expect IFR conditions to be increasing with winds here, especially in the central Aleutians. This low is not especially deep, but it has a strong wind field around it. It'll have gale force winds with gusts to storm force. And as that low tracks across the central Aleutians Sunday into Monday, it'll spread winds and precipitation to the Pribilovs, and eventually snow and blowing snow back up along areas of the Kuskokwim, Yukon deltas, and Nunavik Island as we go through Monday afternoon and evening, and then all of that spreading further northward. Another feature, there's going to be an area of low pressure come across eastern Russia with a front. That's going to increase southerly winds across the Seward Peninsula and up here along the west side of the Brooks Range up through Point Hope and Cape Lisburne. These areas will see winds increasing with blowing snow as we go through Sunday afternoon into Sunday night. So conditions will be improving here along the Gulf Coast and through the Panhandle with that ridge of high pressure building northward as we go through early next week. We expect snow breaking out with blowing snow in this area of northwest Alaska as we go through Sunday afternoon and evening, and then IFR conditions with rain and snow associated with that windy low that's going to cross the central Aleutians. And then for Monday morning, along the west coast, IFR conditions from around Utqiagvik down along the northwest coast, Point Hope, down along the Seward Peninsula. South side there also be seeing increased southerly flow and some snows. As that low crosses up into the lower central Bering, it'll spread precipitation and winds into the Pribilov Islands here for Monday, late Sunday night, Monday, and then all of that's going to advance eastward. So by Monday afternoon and certainly evening, this area here, the lower Yukon Delta, Kuskokwim areas and through Nunavik Island could see snow and blowing snow. Southerly flow could also enhance water levels here in around Kuskokwim Bay. Meanwhile, though, that area of high pressure will be building northward up into the Gulf. This will help dry things out across south central up into the mainland as well as across much of the Panhandle. Definitely more of a spring feel than what it has been. And eventually another low is going to come up out of the North Pacific and pull moisture along through the western Gulf and in through the Alaska Peninsula by midweek. That's going to allow temperatures to moderate here, but also bring some heftier rain coastal areas and then snow to the intercoastal mountains. So as we look north on Sunday afternoon, the passes there through the east central Brooks Range, MVFR conditions, Anatuvik and Adigan passes. As we drop south down along the west arm of the Alaska Range, Lake Clark starting out MVFR, becoming VFR. Merrill Pass IFR early, especially there and on the west side Sunday morning, giving way to MVFR conditions. Rainy Pass also IFR conditions Sunday morning, giving way to MVFR. And then as we look at Windy Pass, generally MVFR conditions there with VFR conditions further south as you go down through the Susitna Valley. Isabel Pass should be VFR on Sunday, as will Mentasta Pass coming across the Copper River Basin. VFR, as well as down to Portage Pass, we expect VFR conditions on Sunday. And then in the far northern Panhandle, moisture will be moving out. Any lingering light showers will be moving out as we go through the day Sunday. IFR conditions becoming VFR with improving ceilings and visibilities. Sunday morning, the freezing levels at the surface run up along the Kamchatka coastline, dropping down between St. Lawrence, St. Matthew. I should say St. Matthew and St. Paul, and then down to just off of the Alaska Peninsula along the Gulf Coast in through the inner channels of the Panhandle. Freezing levels aloft do bump upwards to 4,000 to 6,000 feet as you get down toward Vancouver Island, and then here behind me in advance of that next low and frontal system. We expect freezing levels to be rising 2, 4, 6,000 feet. They are Sunday morning into the afternoon, especially just to the southwest of the western and central Aleutians. Now looking at icing threat, moderate icing possible along lingering showers along the northern Gulf into areas of the Panhandle above 4,000 feet. Perhaps some areas above 3,000 feet, some lingering snow showers here along the eastern Brooks Range toward the Alcan border. And then also back here, this area is going to see snow developing as we go through Sunday afternoon and evening. So there's a better chance of some icing there, along with blowing snow developing with near blizzard conditions possible in that areas of the northwest by Sunday night. And then here comes the next push of moisture with that low coming across the western central Aleutians, some icing above 4,000 feet. So the upper level jet stream winds, we have a jet max upwards of 100 to 115 knots from the southwest going up from the North Pacific into western Canada. Anticyclonically curved jet streak to 90 knots coming into northwestern mainland. And then behind me down here we have winds westerly 115 knot wind max just to the southwest of the western central Aleutians. Looking 9,000 feet, 700 millibars. We have system pulling away here across the lower Gulf, North Pacific. Broad belt of west-northwest winds across the northern mainland, upwards around 40 knots back through the Chukchi Sea and eastern Russia. And then you can see the stronger mid-level winds as much as 45 to 75 knots across the eastern and southern quadrant of that low. It'll be moving up into the Aleutians. And then at 3,000 feet, the high pressure ridge will not really get going here until later Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday, but that's setting the stage as the system departs. What remnant moisture, any lingering showers in the Panhandle will be moving out as we go through the day Sunday. And then off to the west, this is the most couple of systems. This is the low, windy low that will be moving across the central Aleutians, strongest winds east and south of it, at 3,000 feet, 50 to 75 knots. So again, this area would support some turbulence, severe turbulence. Here to the west, though, notice there's a low pressure here riding along eastern Russia coastline in Gulf of Anadyr. That low will be crossing into the lower Chukchi Sea, so out ahead of it we have a belt of winds, west-southwest winds 35 to 40 knots. And when we take into consideration turbulence, surface and aloft, we find areas of turbulence along the Arctic coast, especially just offshore, surface to 3,000 feet, moderate turbulence. This area here, western Brooks Range toward Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, surface to 4,000 feet. And then also here along the Seward Peninsula and around the Bering Strait south to St. Lawrence, we could see some moderate turbulence, surface to 3,000 feet. Some pockets of isolated to maybe moderate turbulence coming in through the entrance of Cook Inlet and just on the Pacific side here of the middle upper Alaska Peninsula at surface to 4,000 feet. But by far the greatest amount of turbulence will be associated with that low. It's going to be crossing the central Aleutians. We could see severe turbulence in the central Aleutians around Adak, Atka, surface to 3,000 feet on Sunday.